Hello everybody, it's Michala Petersen here, and today we are going to talk about the skinny on fats. I don't know about you, but I didn't learn a ton in pharmacy school about omegas, and it's just recently that there's buzz everywhere about different omegas. So today we're going to talk about the background and why they're important. We're also going to talk about how they relate to disease or disease prevention, and then the benefits of the different omegas, and then finally how we get more into our diet. So first of all, omegas, as you probably know, are essential for life. They are like, our brains are 60% fat. We need good fats for making hormones, and we actually need cholesterol, even though that's kind of a buzz topic too, but we need fats to make the good cholesterol. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But we also have vital vitamins that are fat soluble, and those are vitamins A, D, E, and K. And so they need fat in order to be dispersed throughout our body and to do the great things that they do for us. So omega-3s are supple. If you think of your brain having little parking stalls, this is Dr. Sears' analogy. I took a health coach certification from him, from his institute last year. And he talked about the brain having several different parking stalls in it. And ideally, we want the omega-3s to go into the parking stalls because omega-3 is supple. So it lets things into the cell and it lets gunk and toxins out of the cell. What happens though is our diet in the United States is so rich in trans fat or man-made fat, so not the good omegas, that the brain's parking stalls recognize that as something that can fit in the parking stall. So what happens is that trans fat gets in and clogs our brain or our cells in our body, and then the bad stuff cannot get out. So that's one of the reasons that we have so much disease, because our brain recognizes the parking stalls as just parking stalls. So also, that's a reason, little fun fact that really doesn't relate to anything in this video, but when you eat a fast food meal or a meal high in trans fat, you'll notice that you feel sluggish for a couple hours after you eat. And that's the reason, is because those trans fat are clogging, the trans fat is clogging the parking stalls in your brain and not allowing our body to function like it's supposed to. So we want a balance of omega-3 to omega-6s, and we want more 3s than 6s, if that makes sense. So typically, we want a ratio of 1 to 2 or 1 to 3, but what is happening in America is we're consuming only 3 units of omega-3 and up to 50 units of omega-6 every day. So no wonder we're sicker, right? Those parking stalls are completely clogged, and those toxins then can't get out of our cells. So unless we consume wild fish an average of 5 times a week, we are deficient in omegas. And actually, over 90% of Americans are deficient in omegas because we don't consume that much fish. And even if we do, we have to be careful of that, right? Because fish has all sorts of, they eat stuff in the bottom of the lakes and the oceans and the rivers. And so you have to be careful about toxicity, especially during pregnancy or in a chemo or radiation state. And so we want to be careful. So Dr. Sears wrote a great book called The Omega Effect, if you want to know more about that. I actually had a great conversation with him in October about the same concept that we're talking about here. I'll share a little bit more about that with you in a little bit. But let's first talk about the benefits of all the different omegas. We're specifically going to focus on omega-3, 5, 6, 7, and 9. And you may hear that omega-6 is bad, but if it comes from a natural source, it's not necessarily bad. So we're going to talk about the benefits. So first of all, omega-3. Omega-3 is essential for brain health. It's been shown that people with Alzheimer's and brain disorders are deficient in omega-3. it has we have little protective proteins in our body called telomeres. And if you think of these like the plastic at the end of a shoelace, we don't want that plastic to be removed or be shortened, because then the shoelace unravels. And that's the same thing that happens in our body. So omega-3 decreases the shortening of those little telomeres. And that helps in the aging process. That helps us not age as fast, which who doesn't want that, right? It helps decrease wrinkles and all sorts of fun things like that. Omega-3 also decreases inflammation, and that is related to the COX-2 enzyme that we talked about in previous weeks. Interesting fact is that COX-2 is really high in 95% of colon and breast cancer. So that's really inflammatory, obviously. We know that omega-3 increases the oxygen carrying capacity. And if you check out the Budwig diet protocol, that is really focused on omegas and has been shown to decrease tumor size. So that's something that you can check out if you would like as well. So we also know that omega-3s decrease cancer risk. They decrease heart disease. They build brain cells, which we talked about the brain being 60% fat. So that's a great thing. It improves mood and helps with depression-like symptoms or ADHD, really any brain functioning problem. It improves vision. We know that it improves learning. And then let's talk just for a second about how it relates to specifically cancer, because we know that omega-3 inhibits the production of blood cells that feed cancer. So once you can diminish that blood supply, then that's a great thing to help in cancer patient in somebody in a cancerous state. We also know that it increases the immune system, and so whether you're undergoing chemo or radiation, or you know someone that is, or even just moms and dads and people at work. I mean, we come in contact with sick people every single day. And so increasing the immune system and enhancing the immune system is really important. We know that it decreases tumor cell progression and therefore slows tumor growth. We know that it enhances the effect of chemo and radiation and makes it more specific to the cells that we're trying to get rid of and less specific to the good cells. And then 80% of cancer patients that don't have a positive result end up succumbing to malnourishment. And so we know that omega-3s decrease wasting, or, that losing body weight and stuff like that in cancer patients. So that's really important. Omega-5 is something that I really knew nothing about. And omega-5 balances your weight. It improves cardiovascular health. It improves blood sugar health. It improves blood sugar, which is great for, preventing disease. And it helps with menopause symptoms, which is exciting to a lot of middle-aged women. We know that omega-6 decreases nerve pain. Now, these are the good sources of omega-6s. And, sometimes those omega-6s, if we're consuming plants, just come along for the ride, because you can't necessarily get rid of the omega-6s if you're trying to isolate it. So they decrease nerve pain, decrease inflammation. It's been shown to really help rheumatoid arthritis. Omega-6s decrease ADHD symptoms. It improves blood pressure. We know that it decreases heart disease, and then is really important also in bone health. And so omega-7 is the next one we're going to talk about. Omega-7 is great for bowel regularity. And we all know that we're a constipated society. I think there wouldn't be many people that argue that. And it also helps in weight loss should you need to lose weight. And then omega-9 is the last one we're going to talk about, and it improves the cardiovascular system. It helps your body make healthy cholesterol, which is HDL, which we'll talk about that in just a little bit. It improves the immune function. It improves energy. It improves mood, and overall allows your body to have better or more maintained blood sugars. So that's exciting. Okay, so how do we get more omegas in our diet? Well, number one is eating healthy. We're going to talk about several ways that you can do that. Another way is to avoid trans fat, which would be any man-made or processed fat. Fast food restaurants are notorious for this. And some downsides of trans fat, other than clogging those little parking stalls, is trans fats can cause low birth weight in infants. They can increase your blood sugar, which we know that blood sugar is a function of willpower. So we want to raid the pantry more when our blood sugar is not stable. We want that blood sugar to be nice and steady. We know that trans fats transfer to breast milk, and babies are little fat heads, according to Dr. Sears. We know that it increases vasodilation, which isn't necessarily a good thing. We know that it increases LDL, and LDL is lousy cholesterol. That's what we want to have lower in our body. And it also decreases HDL, which is the good cholesterol. That's the healthy cholesterol. And if you think of it, HDL is like the dump trucks that roam around your body collecting the bad cholesterol or the LDL, in order to take the bad cholesterol back to your liver to be processed. So we want high HDL. We want a lot of those dump trucks, so our body system is working properly. We know that trans fat also decreases visual acuity or vision, which is not a good thing for the long run. And then we know that it decreases omega levels in the brain, which is exactly what we talked about with getting in and clogging those parking stalls. So how can you do this? You can consume more nuts. Walnuts are a great source of omega-3 flaxseed. You can add that to a shake, or I add flaxseed to meatballs or anything like that. A little tidbit on flaxseed is, in order for the body to use it for positive omega effects, you need to grind it. So it needs to be ground flaxseed. If you just have the regular flaxseed, it's going to be a whisk broom and brush the gunk out of your colon, which is good, but it's not going to help us as far as the omegas go. We can consume cold water fish. Avocados are a great source of omegas, so that's good. You can avoid deep fried foods. That's easy for me to say. And then the last thing is supplements. You have to be really careful here. I know, as a pharmacist, I know that fish oil is good for you, but it's hard to find one that isn't heated to a high temperature. And what happens when that oil is heated is the oil can become rancid. I'm sure some of you have opened up a fish oil bottle and it is rancid. You can totally tell that it's rancid. And so, the toxins, the heavy metals, the mercury, the aluminum, and stuff like that are not degraded by the high heat, but the oils are. So Dr. Sears used to recommend Nordic Naturals if you're looking for a fish oil. I know a lot of people that do not love to burp fish. I was one of them. I tried to consume fish oil and I would burp it and I would try to freeze it. And so then it would be, by the time it got past my stomach, it was thawed, and then I wouldn't necessarily burp it, but I just didn't love the size of them. And so I am so excited that the Whole Food Nutritional Concentrate company that I work for came up with an awesome plant-based omega, which we have seen tremendous results from. Everything from joints not aching, to better vision, to better mental clarity. We feel like we ran out actually over Christmas, and all of us felt it. Even the kids felt it. So this is made out of pomegranate seeds, sea buckthorn berry, tomato seeds, different things that you don't eat on a daily basis. And it is rich in omega-3, 5, 6, 7, and 9. It's actually an orangey vanilla liquid. And I puncture the capsules and put it in a raspberry hole every day for 2 of my kids. The other 2 swallow the capsules. But even if you do burp it, you get this refreshing orange vanilla burp. So I would caution you just to be careful of the supplement that you do take. Make sure that it is NSF certified, which makes sure that there's nothing on the label that's not in the product. There's no heavy metals or anything additional in the product that's not on the label. And third and foremost, that it does no harm. And so good luck. I would be happy to help you if you have any questions regarding supplements or anything like that. But my question for you, now that you know all of this about omegas, is how are you going to get more omegas into your diet on a daily basis. So comment below and let us know what you're going to do today to increase your omega content. So thanks so much for watching, you guys. We'll see you next week.